side passing. It's one of those things that can be so simple and yet so difficult to just perfect. But luckily for you, with the tips in today's video, I'm here to fix all those teeny tiny little errors and really make you and your horse shine. A side pass is simply a lateral movement. It's something that should be able to be done from the ground and in the saddle, but today I'm going to tell you mostly the tips to do with being on the ground. By the way, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Shay, and on this channel I talk all about my two horses, Sage, my paint mare, and Penny, my Mustang filly, as well as a little bit of horsey educational content. If you'd like to follow along, feel free to hit that subscribe button as well as ding that little notification bell. And without further ado, let's get into it. Why the finger guns? If you've ever been personally victimized by a side pass over an obstacle at a competition, don't worry, we've all been there. It's something that we think isn't a big deal to work on until all of a sudden our horse isn't going to side pass over the cones. Looking at you, Penny. Thank you. Thank you. But don't worry, we're going to go through it step by step, and at the very end, I'm going to give you a few pointers to be able to really clean it up. Step one is something we actually talked about in a video a couple weeks back, the pivot. This is something you should have started introducing already, but we're going to start with being able to move the horse's hind end and the front end, ideally with just your body language and not with your hands. These maneuvers allow us to be able to move different parts of the horse's body, and the side pass is merely combining those together. Step two, we need to find a solid barrier, something that our horse is not going to just walk past. A panel, fence line, barrels set up next to each other, those can all be barriers as long as your horse understands that that is what it is. Step three, we need to take this super duper slow. If this is something completely new for your horse, we need to take it one step at a time and be able to praise for each tiny, teeny, little itty bitty step. Typically, a horse has an easier time completing the forehand turn. For those of you that don't remember, this is a turn that's on the front end, so those front feet stay planted. We're going to start with asking for that forehand turn with your horse's nose pointed up against the wall. And as soon as they take a little step, stop everything you're doing and praise. After that little bit of a forehand, we're going to ask for that haunch turn, just a single step and praise again. After you do this slight haunch turn, it's going to put you back perpendicular against the wall. I know it seems super boring, but step four is just repeating everything over and over and over. A lot of the haunch turn and then forehand turn movements work to build the fluidity and responsiveness from your horse. We also need to make sure, like any other training that we do, that we're training both sides. Information in a horse's brain does not freely pass from one side to the other, so we have to make sure that we are training and praising for both sides. Once your horse can move back and forth with ease, I want you to move your body and place it between the middle of the neck and the shoulder. I personally prefer to stay right smack in the middle of my horse's neck, just to be able to control the head a little bit more. From here, you're going to cluck to your horse and increase the energy moving into the horse's side. And if your horse refuses to move, take it back to step four and go back to those little steps. We don't want to miss those tiny steps because they're going to create the foundation for a nice, pretty, fluid side pass. Personally, I prefer not to touch my horses, but at this point, you can put a little bit of pressure with a hand or a fingertip to be able to push them over in the direction that you want. That's something that's usually a last resort for me. I prefer to just ask with my body language and start over if that doesn't work. This is all as long as your horse understands that you touching a certain location on them means to move away from that pressure. i.e., if you are touching the horse on the hip, the hind end should be moving away. Finally, step six is moving off the rail. At this point, your horse should be moving laterally with ease on both sides when it's up against the rail, so that when you come off, they know which direction they're supposed to be going. If you've trained your horse to move off of your body, taking a slight step towards the hip will move the hip a little bit more. Taking a slight step towards the front end will move the head a little bit more. Congratulations, you have just successfully taught your horse how to side pass. It's a great functional tool to be able to use in things like leg yielding or two tracking, or if you need to side pass up to a gate in a trail class, or if you're working on the ranch and need to side pass over the fence to get off. Side passing can also lead to greater flexibility and mobility in your horse's body. Now, let's make it perfect. Tip 1, straightness. When we watch a side pass from the front, the horse should ideally be straight, if not almost all straight. Like with pivots in the other video, a straight horse is a balanced horse. When we start to see bend in the side pass, your horse can get a little bit wiggly, or it can start to move backwards instead of forwards, meaning those front feet are actually crossing behind each other instead of in front. Speaking of crossing the front legs, that was my next tip. For most maneuvers, we want forward motion. For the haunch turn, we want the horse to pivot on the inside foot with the front legs crossing in front. It's the same with the forehand turn, thus the same with side passing. For side passing, there's no foot to pivot around, but to have the feet crossing in front of each other dictates a forward motion. Now, don't let your horse get too far ahead of you, but by staying more towards the head and asking the horse to move over, for the most part, you're going to see those feet cross in front of each other. For example, if you're side passing to the right, that left front foot should be coming in front of the right front. And if you're going the opposite direction, the right front is coming in front of the left front. But Shay, my horse won't cross its legs. It's fine, that's okay. Don't stress over it. This may just mean you need to go back to step 4, which is taking it to the wall. When you go back to the wall, you stop having to worry about how far your horse is going forward or backward, and you can just rely on the lateral movement. You start to lessen the concern about straightness and focus more on energy and movement in that direction. If your horse still refuses to cross their feet, I would honestly call a vet out at that point and make sure there's not an injury to anywhere in the shoulder muscles that would cause them to not be able to cross over. Now here's a few don'ts when it comes to side passing. Number 1, don't shorten the lead. I see a lot of people do this, and a lot of times it just creates tension in your horse and stops that fluid motion. Just like with pivots, choking up on the lead can cause your horse to bend and throw them off balance. Number 2, don't rush. There's no need to rush. Even in a show ring, if you start rushing, your horse's energy is gonna go all haywire, and that is what causes an absolute nightmare. If your horse starts to go all wonky, slow it back down and just concentrate on nice, smooth, lateral movement over. Take a breath, reset, and if you have to try again, that's okay. Number 3, don't force yourself to move laterally over an obstacle. Instead, try to line them up straight over. For example, if my horse is refusing to side pass over a pole, I may stop, move my horse so that it's over the pole, and then ask for the side pass. Keep in mind, this is typically schooling to be done outside of the show ring. For a little bit of review, let's watch some clips of side passes done both on the ground and in the saddle, and let me know what you think in the comments. We're currently watching a yearling at the 2022 APHD World Show, and the first thing I've noticed is the handler's hands. While she isn't putting a ton of pressure on that left hand, she is causing a little bit of a bend in the horse's frame. She also has her right hand out, which isn't necessarily a fault. I just think it looks more professional if you have your hands in closer to you. Here's the 2020 AQHA Amateur World Champion, and while this side pass is being ridden, you can see it's much straighter than the in-hand horses, even though at the very end, the hind end starts to drag just a little bit. He had some beautiful crossovers, which really showed the forward motion, even with it being a lateral movement. For this last clip, we are watching the 2021 AQHA Junior Trail class. And this one's my personal favorite. Even though that first step was a little bit laggy, the crossovers were beautiful and the straightness was lovely. Overall, the horse was very soft and able to move really fluidly off the rider's leg. After watching a few different horses side pass and breaking that side pass down into a few simple steps, how are you feeling? Are you ready to try it on your own? Just remember to take things slow and don't be afraid to go back a few steps. The best trainers in life are the ones that find those holes and fix those before they try to just drill in the maneuver. Thank you guys so much for watching. I so appreciated having you here with me today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And if you like the video, feel free to like, subscribe, and ding that little notification bell. And most of all, don't forget to enjoy the ride. Bye guys. Just like with pivots, choking up on the lead. That's not a tongue twister. Why is it so hard for me to say? I'm staying hydrated today instead of being dehydrated as hell like the last few days. I've drank like nothing but coffee and energy drinks. Yay for mental health. Ooh, vlog coming out about mental health soon. That's okay. Can we? This is great because it's just all over the place. I feel like that sounded so weird. Ideally with just your body language and not with your hands. Spirit fingers. Like with pivots, This is the 2023 Reserve. Oh shit. Just kidding. We're almost done, which this was like 30 minutes of video. I'm shocked my phone's still recording. Probably not for long, so